the time we have left, we got to switch to a couple different areas because, I mean, how do you not talk to the chief visionary officer of MRI about MRI? I mean, I don't want to get fired, from my own deal here. I'd be crazy not to ask you about that. So, and for those, watching, and I always tell my kids, look, there's people that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and people have no idea what's going on or that anything's happening. You really don't want to be that. Why do you want to be the person watching? So you're getting to learn from somebody that is making stuff happen, has been making things happen for 30 years. You've been in the recruiting industry for 30 years. You're subject matter expert. You have one of the leading firms in the world. Anybody else in med tech's looking up, and would love to get halfway to you. Why MRI? Why did you come to MRI last year?
Well, I grew up in MRI. So I started my career in December 1989 MRI as an account executive. In 92, I bought my first franchise down in Coral Gables, Florida. And I spent from 92 to early 2000s in MRI. And I ended up leaving for a number of reasons and went independent. A very dear friend of mine who I grew up in the business bought the business last year in the spring, Bert Miller. Yeah. And Bert asked me to do a keynote last year in October. I did a keynote and I got in front of, it was 400 people that were MRI owners. And, our organization has always been sort of very disruptive in how we do our business. And we became a very digitally driven company. I think we were the first search firm to have a video on LinkedIn. We do a lot of branding for our clients, marketing for our clients on LinkedIn. We have, like you pointed out, a full media company, production company. And so, I stood there on the stage, and when I was wrapped up, I realized that these were really MRI are the best recruiters in the world. As an organization, it has the best training in the world. It has the most committed people. These people are in recruiting because they truly love it, and they just happen to make a really good living. But they're there first and foremost to be part of a network, and they love what they're doing, changing and enhancing people's lives. And, I had this great structure around our search firm, and I knew it was very scalable. And so Bert started talking to me about coming on board the organization. And one day I just looked at it and I'm like, okay, if the Mullings Group is the spark, I need a powder keg. And there's not a better powder keg than the best trained recruiters in the world who are still, for the most part, working in a legacy recruiting style.
Yeah.
So, I think what we had in October last year was a little bit of a woke. And then when Bert finally cornered me, I said no a whole bunch of times. I mean, if you know Bert, he's relentless. I finally said yes. And to put it like easiest, I am painting my masterpiece with management recruiters. And my goal is to have recruiting before March of 2020 and recruiting after March of 2020. When you take the spark and the powder keg and you're unrelentless on a daily basis, but I'm incredibly patient as we take this shift in talent access in the world of work and change the world of recruiting through MRI.
Yeah, the efficiency and how much more effective that messaging can be based on what you're starting to implement. I think there's no ceiling. It's very exciting. So
yeah.
From a visionary standpoint, and I talk in my office all the time. I try to talk to my kids about this all the time too, right? 2D, 3D, 4D. And just from the idea of the more you understand how things connect, the more depth perception that you have, whether that's how clinical aspect ties in to, and that's another reason why I love those areas, because they all hold hands, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of R&D, clinical, quality, and regulatory. The more you understand that, the greater your depth, the more value that you can bring your candidates, your clients. So with what's happening, what's your vision of where MRI is going to be five years from now?
Simply put, we're not changing recruiting from a sense of what we do. So we know what we do. We build companies and careers. And we're just going to rethink and reimagine how we do it. The one thing that won't change is the telephone. The telephone will still be where the deal takes place. What we're doing is changing where the phone sits in the value prop. And so if you think about classic recruiting, for those that are watching this as recruiters, the best recruiters are able to demonstrate their subject matter expertise on their telephone to their candidates and clients. That tends to be a very small circle. If you're a great recruiter after 5, 6 years in the industry, you probably, if you really did your data, you probably talk to the same 400 people for the most part, 80% of the time. Well, what if we could take your subject matter expertise and scale it 24/7, 365? And let's say your expertise is medical device, of which there's nearly 700,000 of those people on LinkedIn. And you can scale that subject matter expertise digitally, working 24/7. And now you can turn your 50 phone calls a day all into A calls. And how about the people that never talked to you before, but when they speak to you for the first time, they've been watching your subject matter expertise demonstrated at scale on LinkedIn on the platform they're in. So when you call them up, they already know you. You don't have to convince them. And they are already on the Darwin on-ramp because you've demonstrated yourself as a subject matter. On the client side, it then creates an inbound call because they know you know what you're talking about. And you're not spending your time justifying a 25% fee when you called in begging for a JO. Instead, the companies know that you're the Pied Piper of the market, that they want to come to you for reg, clin, and qual, and they're going to call you up and you're going to say, this is my charge. And they're like, happy to pay it because we know we're going to get value with you. That's what the next 5 years look like.